Hey guys, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to give you a little bit of positive, productive feedback on these portfolio websites. Now, this is probably maybe the second official time that you've worked on your portfolio site as part of the MCBS program. But please know that it will be a continuous process for you between now and the time that you graduate. So, please keep in mind that this feedback is meant to help you evolve your site to its next best iteration, and I look forward to checking back in with you guys on these sites as you get into your later portfolio months. So first up, we're looking at Ty's site here. So the first thing that strikes me is it's got like a very sort of whimsical visual appeal here. And you use a very decorative font choice here that's good in sparing use, but I think it's overused here. And the reason why it's a difficult choice is that it's hard to read in larger amounts of text. So these headings or these kind of call out areas where you say high tech or social media, they're big enough and spread out enough that you can kind of easily absorb it. But if we were to go to this section here even, using any type of all caps when you are having full sentence structure is very difficult to read because our eyes can't really discern as well the starting and ending place of these sentences. So from a readability standpoint, this is great for headings or maybe subheadings, but definitely switch up a more readable text in your body here. So I'm going to go next to the portfolio page, and here I can see that you're choosing to include a number of different projects. So as I scroll through these, I can see that we've got the ability to watch the video here, and then you do a nice job of giving us sort of the context to understand what you created. So this is website design, graphic design, so this is moving through a little bit too quickly for my taste. Like I don't have enough time to actually read what is going on here. You say what video production is or what graphic design is, but please tell me like what was your full role in the creation of this piece? Was it producing, capturing, editing? Those are things that need to be detailed because as you get more and more into your body of work, there will likely be bigger projects where you weren't the sole creator on it from start to finish. So you want to make sure that you're really highlighting which skills you were using on each particular project. Another thing that you might want to do is to consider adding the software that you use to help design these things. Scrolling down, this is an area that's very difficult to read because of the motion behind the words. So like this is visually appealing to have this swirling imagery in the background, but it is a usability issue because it makes it harder for me to concentrate on the words. And then not only do I have that distraction, but the typeface itself is problematic for the reasons that we already discussed. So I would say just for this kind of title area, that font is fine, but it needs to be replaced with something, just a bit more simpler and complementary in, this section here and when you're talking about your projects. On the About page, we have, just a little bit of information about you and give me a little bit of your professional background. But what I want to kind of highlight is just, how difficult it is to read this text again. And then you seem to add like a little bit of a drop shadow here, which complicates things a little bit more because it makes that text look blurry. And this is something that you just picked up in your editing for the web class, but I want to just reiterate is anytime you have paragraph text, which means it's not a title, heading, or subheading, that text needs to be left aligned, again for readability issues. When text is center aligned in this way, it's harder for us to finish a line of text and then come back to a different starting point on each line than it is if you've created a strong border and a consistent starting place for that type. It's a very visually pleasing site, but there are just, like I said, a few issues, particularly with the readability of the fonts. So we could email you here or we could visit your blog, but why else would someone want to contact you? Are you for hire? What kind of projects do you want to collaborate on? This would be an area I encourage you to think about putting some words to really kind of help drive traffic or to receive the kind of communications or potential work that you're looking for. Next up, we're going to take a look at the site of CJ. So going to very very colorful initial impression here, with sort of like a geometric or tribal design back there and a nice full image up top. We see just kind of a little bit of an about or hello message here. So again, the feedback that I just provided about center aligning paragraph text or body text, all this text needs to be left aligned because it's not a heading, a subheading, or a title. Scrolling down, so we see a little bit of the work here. I'd like to see a little bit more spacing on this particular layout, so it doesn't kind of extend the viewable area of my screen. So the unleashed advertisement here really extends beyond sort of what I can see within the dimensions of my screen, and this is, you know, basically the actual size. Some really great projects. I'm going to go ahead and click on one, and when I do, it brings it up in, you know, a bigger image for me to see. And then yeah, so this is what I was looking for, to make sure that you've included a little bit of information about each of these projects that basically talks about what you created and why. This is all keyword-rich content that will help people understand the scope of the work that you do, but also help you be found by search engines. I'm going to click to the next one. So here we're seeing, it looks like maybe an infographic of some kind. So a roadmap as a guide, so an example of an infographic. Okay, so this is great. I appreciate the way that you are giving me the context to help me understand the content that you are sharing here on the page. So this is great. So this is your client. This was the kind of the deliverable, that it's a website, and you know, you give a little bit of background. And then what's cool about you know, showcasing your web design work is you've not only created something that looks pretty, but it has to function well, right? It has to have a certain amount of usability or a positive user experience. And by providing a link to that site, it gives people the ability to navigate and check that out firsthand. So that's looking great. I'm going to go back to the About Me section, which I realize is an entirely a separate page at this point. One thing I want to note is kind of just some what I consider to be inconsistencies in certain styles, right? So you have these containers here on top of a very busy geometric and sort of sharp looking background, but you've rounded the edges of these containers. And to me, that seems a bit you know, counterintuitive with the you know, the sharpness of this background image that you're really leaning on heavily for the visuals. So I might recommend, and also there's some stylistic, either it's like an outline or shadowing that you've applied, that sort of style isn't carried over, you know, in the background here. So I see that as being a bit of a disconnect stylistically. So this is a you know, a nice little hello about you. One thing I'll say is that, so your education heading goes here, but then it's not aligned with where that information starts on the page. So I would shift that up so that was in alignment there, the same way that skills aligns with the top here and the About Me aligns with the top there. Kind of just scrolling down, I do see areas that I can connect with you and other places online, which is great. I'm going to click on one of these just to make sure that it does in fact open in a new browser window, which is great because you don't want to take people fully away from your site. Going to go back to the home page and continue to scroll down here. We did see some of your work. I'm wondering if I go to work, what will happen? So it's just dropping me to that area down there. You know, it seems as if you're kind of really leaning heavily on a one-page design. We do have this About Me section, but what if you consolidated what was on this page with what we see here and just have like a single one-page design? It seems counterintuitive that the first link that I would go to would take me away from this home page, and then this one would take me back. So something for you to think about in terms of you know, what is an intuitive navigational structure. Next time we're going to look at the site of Matthew Oakley. So it's very sort of clean in its visual appearance, but so kind of stylistically, this sort of, it looks like a graffiti or a tag typeface looks very different stylistically than what you have presented here. So my question to you, is this more you know, consistent with who you are as a media you know, professional or creative, or is this, because they're giving me two separate opinions or two separate sort of impressions, I guess is what I wanted to say. So we've got your mission statement here, which is great, and you say we are our client and the client fan to be happy with the service we come out for them. So like it seems like there's a few words that are missing to kind of make this flow well. And so if you're presenting yourself as an individual and you're talking about we, that's a disconnect too, right? So is this an entity like an entire company, or is it an individual? Because if it was an individual, it would say something about like I or me, not we or ours. So something that for you to kind of revisit there. So that's the home page on the resume. So here, taking a look, show me that you are a music producer, showing like a broad range of skills and where you've worked. I'd like to see a little bit more detail about, what you did at these various places, because again, that is keyword-rich content that will help people find your site and connect with what it is that you do. This is a cool picture, but I would maybe crop it so that my face was aligned more in the center there, and maybe raise the levels a tad to make it a bit brighter. Seems kind of dark. If we go to samples, so here we can take a look at, or actually take a listen to some of the music that you've created. So that's pretty cool. So I can just go ahead and press play on these, which is awesome. This is a very clean page that works really well for you. And then a simple contact, right? So the impression that I get kind of looking at, what you've created here and, your kind of focus in music productions, it seems like, maybe the skin or the theme of what we see here is a little too crisp for more of the edginess, that you produce in your work. Maybe something for you to think about, as you continue to work on your personal brand and sort of the presentation of who you are and who you want to be in the industry. You don't really have a ton of content on these pages. I might encourage you to explore a single page design somewhat similarly to how we looked at CJ's over here, because it seems like this is the home page, and it's the only place you can guarantee that I'll see when I come to the site, because I have the choice then to connect to these. Seems like you might want to put more information here, and maybe just consolidate all of these these pages into a single scrollable index page. Next up, we have Stephanie's site. So it's very clean upon initial glance. We've got our navigation up here, which doesn't seem to be quite center aligned. One thing to notice though, that as you continue to scroll on the page, we don't have any consistent branding that stays in one spot or navigation. And so I have to scroll all the way back here, wondering if you could make this a sticky header, meaning that this section stays in place while this content scrolls. That way it would just offer more navigation options for your visitors. I would also recommend putting the branding information, so your name up here in the header, so that stays in place as well. So it's consistently in the same spot on every page. So here you talk about, just that you're a media communications professional and these are the things that you're studying. I can download your resume. Here it looks like it is downloading as a Microsoft Word document. So you want to make sure that's a PDF. A Word document is something that is editable by anybody who has the software. And so for that reason, someone could edit that document in a way that was not favorable to you, or, without your approval. So, of course, you can always edit a PDF too, but it's a universal file format that makes it a little bit more difficult to do those things. Scrolling down to see your portfolio, your latest work, we've got sort of these categories of headings here, which are cool, but it seems like it's kind of all really scrunched up in this space here. And so like I'm going to click on business card, and it seems, I thought maybe it would open a bigger version of this, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So these thumbnail, okay, so that looks like it's kind of popping open, maybe something that was not intended for that, because it doesn't seem that that doesn't have a title there. That looks like maybe it's one of your pieces. So these small thumbnails in these really super small size don't give me any real idea about this piece. It cuts off a lot of the information, makes the text almost unreadable in its small format. So you definitely want to consider a different way to present these. Definitely take a look at some of the portfolio sites of your classmates to see how they're presenting their work. Slideshows are great, but also contextualizing the things that you create in terms of blog posts. Show the full work there, and then write the story, the case study of the project itself and what your unique approach was. And then scrolling down, just a little bit of contact information where we can get in touch and how I can connect with you on LinkedIn, which is great. So I'm just going to click these tabs So about me is not taking me anywhere. Portfolio. So okay, it looks like maybe it's taking me to a separate page. When I click on these, they're still not working there. Blog, student projects on your student blog, but it doesn't seem as if I can access that information from this page. Those links aren't working. And then the contact takes me back to the main homepage. So you definitely have some navigation issues that need to be figured out here. It wasn't seamless, definitely some disconnects between what I thought was going to happen and what actually happened. So again, you guys, I understand that it might be the only the second time that you've taken a look at this project. And you certainly have a good bit of time, being at the halfway point of the program now, to get this polished up. But keep in mind that at any point in time you might come across an opportunity where it would be awesome to have a stellar portfolio in place. So take this feedback, incorporate it, and I will be looking at these sites again soon. Please let me know if you have any questions about what I shared. Happy to help you guys moving forward.